The process gets started, Chris, with the Cincinnati Bengals on the clock. Look, I still can't completely and totally rule out Stephen Ross taking over the Dolphins draft room and making the Bengals an offer they can't and won't refuse. But it looks like it's going to be Joe Burrow to the Cincinnati Bengals with the first overall pick in the draft. Do you see any scenario where that does not happen?
No, I do not. I don't. First off, Joe Burrow, like I've told you, Mike, when we talked about quarterbacks, it's almost a flawless film study. He's so talented. And for a national football championship team, okay, their pass protection stunk at LSU. You watch Joe Burrow on film and you just go, hey, he's under duress every play, every other play. And he just makes so many freaking plays within the pocket, not only scrambling, but just moving people around him, making big time throws, Mike. And the one thing I've consistently heard, from around the NFL, people they're totally impressed with Joe Burrow, the man, the leader, the guy he has, the charisma, everything about it. So I don't see there's any way, and I've been told by a few people in the know already that the Bengals are just smitten with what they've learned and with what they've gotten to know about Joe Burrow here through this process.
I'm going to be talking to him this afternoon, and one of the things I want to really delve into, how he handled that period of time at Ohio State when he was passed over for Dwayne Haskins, the decision to transfer. He graduated from Ohio State in 3 years. My goodness, that's what allowed him to play right away at LSU in 2018 and not have to take a year off. But, we see the finished product. We see the guy who's ready to be the number one overall pick in the draft, and we just assume it was easy for him every step of the way. It was not easy for Joe Burrow, so I want to hear more about that story, about how he dealt with the adversity at Ohio State and how he turned that into the motivation that has propelled him to where he is. Also, he reached out to Peyton Manning, which shows that he's smart. He's doing his homework. He's getting advice. He's getting information. He's not trapped by that arrogance of youth that makes you think you have all the answers and no one else who's been there before can help you through it. And Peyton Manning had this to say about Joe Burrow reaching out. I told him, Joe, when you're the first pick in the NFL draft, you're going to a team that has really earned the first pick in the NFL draft. There are going to be some holes there. There was a reason the Colts were picking number one that year. There's a reason the Bengals are picking number one this year. I will say this, though. Peyton Manning walked into a team that had Marvin Harrison and Marshall Faulk, for crying out loud. So the deck was slightly better stacked, although the Bengals have Joe Mixon and A.J. Green. I'll take Marvin Harrison and Marshall Faulk over A.J. Green and Joe Mixon, Chris.
Yes, me too. But, A.J. Green and Joe Mixon's not a bad second. And I do. I think it's, curious that Joe Burrow, calls Peyton Manning. Yes, that's the smart thing to do. We've seen nothing but really smart and perfection and professionalism from Joe Burrow since he's taken over as the LSU quarterback and ever since he got thrusted in the spotlight as the best college player in football last year. And Mike, I said it, the guy that he really reminds me of is Peyton Manning. His style of play, the way he processes defenses, how quickly he can go through reads and flip the side of the field and then diagnose that side of the field and make another, proper decision and accurate throw of the football. It's all just top notch, let alone like those plays, Mike, you see there. He's got the little backyard feel to him. Oh, scramble to the right, 40-yard bomb on the run, right on the money. To me, he really has a similar style to Manning. He's just a new age version, a little more athletic than Peyton, maybe not quite as big, but extremely accurate, extremely smart. His arm is real good. It's not going to wow you like Brett Favre or Elway or Rodgers, but it's really good. And, man, I would be shocked. Cincinnati's taking him number one. We can just move on to pick. We really can move on to pick number 3 because Washington's taking Chase Young. They better make that quick on Thursday night.
Meanwhile, for those of you keeping score at home when it comes to Chris Simms versus the English language, thrusted is an accepted past tense for thrust, although it is rarely used. In most cases, thrust is the past tense of thrust, not thrusted, but you're okay on this one. Saved by
just in case, if anybody thinks I actually give a damn whether I used that correctly, they should check themselves because I don't give a damn.
All right, the Denver Broncos are generating some steam and some buzz, Chris, that they may try to get into the top 10 to get a guy that didn't make your top 5 receiver list, Jerry Jeudy. What in the world does John Elway see in Jerry Jeudy that you don't?
Well, there's a lot of people that see a lot of good in Jerry Jeudy. I get it. I like Jerry Jeudy. I just don't think he's one of the top 5 talents in this year's draft. I don't. Now, this is a guy that, my friends, people I talk to around the NFL, it's a little all over the place. Some people really love Jerry Jeudy. Others that I know and trust don't think he's a top 3 or top 5 receiver in this draft. It's going to be a little bit of the, beauty in the eye of the beholder. And like I said, Mike, Jeudy is a phenomenal route runner, phenomenal. And if he goes to an offense that really prioritizes route running, he can thrive. There's no doubt about it. If he went to an offense like the Seattle Seahawks where they only run about 3 or 4 patterns and it's just like go straight and Russell will hit you, he's not going to thrive there because he's not physically freaky enough to just win one-on-one matchups and do that all the time. I really like the kid. I think he can have a great career. It's the one thing I hate about the draft because I don't want to talk negatively about the kid. But I'll say this one thing, Mike. I would think the Oakland Raiders and you got to worry about the New York Jets liking Jerry Jeudy, right? So Denver's probably worried about one of those 2 teams. And, I guess the other thing is I just find it curious that this has been floated out there. This is the time of the year where I don't trust anything I hear right off the bat. Because I just think there's probably another rhyme or reason to why Denver or somebody has floated this rumor out there, and I just haven't figured that out quite yet.
And, when it comes to the receivers, Peter King and I were talking about this on the show Friday. One of the key ingredients to potential greatness could be the Michael Thomas dynamic, where you end up being the last of the 5 top receivers taken or not one of the top 5. You slide into the second round. Look at what that did to Michael Thomas. The chip on the shoulder that it gave him. And when you're taken in round 1, sometimes there's, and it's probably more often than sometimes, I think it's a fairly common dynamic. There's an entitlement. There's a complacency if you're a first-round pick. There's a sense that you've arrived when you haven't done jack squat at the NFL level. Whereas if you're passed over and you have that list of names, hell, Tom Brady still is obsessed about all the guys that were taken in front of him at the quarterback position 20 years ago. So maybe it would be good for Jerry Jeudy or any of these guys, whoever ends up not being taken in round 1 at the receiver position, sliding into round 2, that may light a fire that will make the guy better than he would have been if he would have been the first receiver taken.
Well, I don't disagree with you there. Yeah, that's the human element of this. And, a guy like Jerry Jeudy, if he did slip or fall or any of these top receivers, they're going to use that as fuel for the future, definitely. And to your big point, Mike, I think more than anything is, just fit. How you fit with a football team is crucial. Michael Thomas would not be Michael Thomas if he was on a bunch of other teams in football. He got to a place where, yes, there's a good quarterback, but there was a coach that really understood how to really expose all the great things he has to bring to a football team and put him in positions to succeed all the time. So that's part of it too. And again, I like Jerry Jeudy. I certainly do. I could see my man John Gruden at pick 12 liking a guy like Jerry Jeudy because he does value route running that way. And he has a lot of plays in his offense where the first read will have to run some intricate, detailed routes to get open. And Jeudy is that type of guy. So, again, I like Jerry Jeudy. I just don't think he's like a super freak talented, we can line you up over here and you're just going to beat the top corner in football play after play after play. No, that was my concern. I think it has to be a little bit about a fit. To me, my top 5 receivers, you can put them on any team and they're going to fit and make it happen. And that's why he's not there. But nonetheless, a really good football player.
And as to that Michael Thomas dynamic, if you don't believe in that, then congratulations. You are the one sports fan in the country who watched none of the Michael Jordan documentary last night, because it's obvious Jordan's ultimate greatness was fueled by every actual and perceived slight that ever landed his way throughout the course of his life from the moment he was born. All right, Dave Gettleman, from the moment he's been a GM in 7 prior drafts, 5 with the Panthers, 2 with the Giants, has never traded down, never, ever traded down in any round. He says he will seriously entertain the possibility of trading down from the 4th spot this year. Do you I'm okay. I fought through it. I made it. I got on the other side, and you made sure that I had a moment there where I thought I needed to cough, and I managed through, my skills and experience, and I've been there and done that before. I'll fight through it. And then thank you for pointing it out to everyone. Yes, I had to fight through a cough, and I had to do it again. So what do you think the Giants are going to do? Do you think they'll trade down? And does it make sense to trade down? I think it does, because if you're the Giants, you got multiple holes to fill. Trade down, get more lottery tickets, and hope to fill those holes.
Agreed. I mean, I would hope they trade down too. Now, they don't want to trade too far. I wouldn't want to do that because, they do have a tackle need to fill, right? That's the big thing. And I would look at the Giants at 4 and, just through my own evaluations on the offensive line, hey, the kid from Alabama, Wills, Becton, the kid from Georgia, Thomas, you look at all those 3. I don't know if you can go wrong with any of the 3. So if you're sitting there on your board and all 3 of them have a very close grade, you go, okay, let me trade down a few spots. I can get a few extra picks and still get one of the 3 guys I really like. You'd go down too far, of course, you're going to miss out. But I think it makes a lot of sense for the Giants to be looking back in the trade back market. But I also would be careful there. Don't go too far. They need an offensive tackle badly. And I would expect if they stay at 4, that's who they end up drafting, Mike.
And the Lions at 3 and the Giants at 4 are the teams to watch if someone wants to leapfrog the Dolphins to get Justin Herbert or Tua Tagovailoa, right? And right now, I think the prevailing view is Herbert goes first, but who the hell knows? But those are the 2 spots, 3 and 4. If you're the Chargers at 6, the Panthers at 7, you want to get in front of the Dolphins at 5, then that may be the trade. And also, don't rule out the Dolphins being the one to prevent getting leapfrogged by doing the deal, even if it's a flip-flop with the Giants from 4 to 5. If the Giants have a deal in place with the Panthers or the Chargers, the Dolphins swoop in and they make them an offer they can't refuse, and the Giants slide back 1 spot. They get something extra, and they still get the guy they would have taken at number 4, Chris. So I agree with you. They still need to come out of this with a mauler at tackle, and it could be Jedrick Wills from Alabama. They need a top guy there, but they have other needs they need to fill as well as they try to make that team competitive and put talent around their great guys. All right, we'll get Chris back here in a moment. His offensive line draft rankings will be available later today on a Monday edition of the Unbuttoned podcast. Mekhi Becton of Louisville had a drug test reportedly flagged at the scouting combine. I wrote about this over the weekend. I don't like that this gets out. It shouldn't get out, especially now that the NFL has relaxed the substance abuse policy. A positive at the scouting combine is meaningless. You go into stage 1 for 60 days, and if you don't have any other incidents in the next 60 days, you come out of stage 1. And here's the thing. You can test positive an indefinite number of times. Now, you're eventually going to face some significant fines, but you're never going to be suspended. The point is, this is something that the NFL needs to keep a better handle on when it comes to maintaining secrecy and privacy and confidentiality. And I always get even a little more anxious about it when the reports of these positive drug tests from the scouting combine originate with the media platforms that are owned and operated by the NFL. In a roundabout way, not in a roundabout way, in a very direct way. They are violating their own confidentiality policies by putting out there on their own platforms the fact that these guys are testing positive at the scouting combine. So, look, I don't think it matters, because I've been told for years that most teams, if not all teams, care about marijuana use only because it can eventually cause you to not be able to play. And at some point, you have to make the choice. Do you love football more than you love marijuana? Under the new substance abuse policy, if you're not already suspended, you're not getting suspended for positive drug tests. Now, you can get suspended for failing to comply with your treatment program. You can get suspended for other irregularities that relate to the testing process, but you can keep testing positive and never get suspended. So I think that's going to make teams care even less about guys who may have failed a drug test at the scouting combine.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.